been prowling around the girls' shower. He's a sexual pervert.
Okay, just what kind of a movie has a peeping Tom as one of its main protagonists? I mean, respect for changing up the formula so early in the slasher craze, but seriously? Who wrote this? Oh. This is The Burning, a film that left behind a legacy both good and bad. So let's get this fire started. I also have a burning feeling there are spoilers ahead. Terrible puns aside, if you find yourself enjoying these videos, please give it a like, maybe a share, and even consider subscribing.
Now, this Cropsey was a sadist. I mean, he got real pleasure out of hurting people. And he had these garden shears. The kind with long, thin blades. Right now, he's out there. Don't look. He'll see you. Don't move. He'll hear you. Don't breathe. You're dead!
The Burning was released in 1981 and begins when a group of teens at a summer camp accidentally burn a caretaker alive during a prank gone horribly wrong. 5 years later, the now hideously disfigured Cropsey returns to the scene of the crime to seek revenge against a new batch of hapless teens. English director Tony Maylam was approached by then rock concert promoters Bob and Harvey Weinstein, who were very eager to break into the film business. After taking an interest in his previous films, the Genesis concert movie and White Rock, the Weinsteins offered to distribute Maylam's films in the US, also inviting him to brainstorm some ideas for a movie they could write and produce together. Maylam found the Weinsteins incredibly enthusiastic, even recalling that Harvey Weinstein would phone him in the early hours of the morning, brimming with ideas. Harvey Weinstein came up with the idea of loosely retelling the New York legend of the Cropsey Maniac, a campfire tale dating back to the 1930s that underwent several variations over the years, with many of them involving a killer out for revenge. Their story would be a loose retelling of this legend, co-written by Maylam, Harvey Weinstein and Brad Gray, with Peter Lawrence and Bob Weinstein writing the screenplay, which was completed in about 6 weeks. While The Burning would be labelled a rip-off of a certain other slasher film that takes place at a summer camp, according to Harvey Weinstein, the concept for The Burning was actually conceived before Friday the 13th was released. Nonetheless, the success of Friday the 13th would imply that another horror film set at a summer camp may well prove successful, despite its cast of, as yet, unknowns.
So, you girls all set for the trip tomorrow? Nothing I can get you? Life jacket? Spermicide?
Oh!
Hey, you gotta be prepared. You know what I mean, huh? Oh, God.
The Burning would be the first major film for several actors that would ultimately go on to achieve much greater success. While not the star of the film, Jason Alexander steals his scenes in his film debut as Camp Funny Man Dave, ad-libbing much of his dialogue, working to inject as much humour into his character as possible. Fisher Stevens plays Woodstock, who also brought a lot of fun to the set, with himself and Jason Alexander drawing inspiration from Abbott and Costello to create an amusing dynamic both on and off camera.
Hey, Dave, you know, you've never failed us. How about a big speedboat with a Merc engine on the back, huh?
Oh, why, certainly.
Holly Hunter also debuts in this film as Sophie, who, in her own words, is really more of a glorified extra, as well as Ned Eisenberg, who would later become a familiar face in several film and TV roles. The Burning stars Brian Matthews and Leah Ayres as camp counselors Todd and Michelle, and Larry Joshua as Glazer, who becomes a source of torment for Brian Backer's role of the timid, if voyeuristic, Alfred. Lou David also plays the primary antagonist Cropsey, whose infant son was actually born the week before shooting began. He was forced to leave him to, and I quote, go and kill people. The burning would be funded independently, with half of the funds coming from local investors, with an initial $500,000 allocated to the project, although the budget is widely accepted to have reached $1.5 million. The Weinsteins had only formed their production company the year prior, using their parents' first names, Miriam and Max, for the company title, now famously known as Miramax, with The Burning being only the second film to be released under that title. The film was shot over a 30-day period during the summer of 1980 and largely filmed on location using real summer camps in Tonawanda near Buffalo, New York. And due to the small budget, actual summer campers would be recruited locally as unpaid extras. Casting director Joy Todd was lauded for her talent scouting for The Burning, managing to assemble an enthusiastic young cast with little to no experience. For many of the unknown players, it was their first feature film and the first time many of them had spent time away from home, adding a somewhat authentic feel to their on-screen dynamic. The lack of budget also meant that there was no money for a wardrobe department, with the majority of the cast simply wearing their own clothes on screen. According to co-star Bonnie Dorosky, however, Jason Alexander insisted on wearing a shirt featuring the number 69, yet the production team felt it was too risque, so they compromised by changing it to 96. Okay, a film loaded with gore and nudity, yet the number 69 was taboo. Some very strange principles in Hollywood. The Weinsteins, knowing what an exploitation of this film required, would include scenes of nudity, which seemed to have differing outcomes for the ladies involved. Actress Carolyn Houlihan, who plays Karen, was repeatedly counselled by director Tony Malum about a scene at a lake in which she was required to appear nude. The young actress initially seemed receptive to the idea, however, the reality of the situation ultimately got the better of her on the day of shooting, where she became understandably overwhelmed. However, actress Carrick Glenn, who plays Sally, was also required to appear topless in a shower scene and was reportedly extremely relaxed before and during the shoot. The Burning would defy one of the slasher genre's tropes by replacing the typical final girl with two male protagonists, as characters Todd and Alfred engage in a showdown with the murderous Cropsey. Yep, we're supposed to root for Alfred, despite the fact that
He's a sexual pervert.
the climax originally took place inside a cave, yet during location scouting, one cave was found to be infested with bats while the other collapsed during preparations. They finally settled on an abandoned copper mine, which also proved quite hazardous since director Tony Malum found himself coughing up dust for weeks afterwards. Tom Savini, who'd created the legendary effects for Friday the 13th, turned down the job of Friday the 13th Part 2 to do the effects for The Burning, because he felt bringing Jason back from the dead was a ludicrous idea. Savini created many gruesome gore effects for the movie, including the hideous design for the antagonist and victim of the titular burning. Having very little time, Savini created the basic sculpt for Cropsey in his hotel room over a 3-day period, admitting his design is a little more stylized without necessarily looking like an actual burn victim. Savini's ingenuity would also be used for some effective kill sequences, especially in The Burning's most infamous moment on a makeshift raft, where Cropsey emerges from a nearby canoe to slaughter 5 hapless campers. When Ned Eisenberg's character has a set of garden shears stuck through his neck, he is actually positioned underneath the raft set, with his head coming up through a hole in the floor. A fake neck and body was attached from the actor's neck down, where Savini would simply skewer the fake prop while Eisenberg gargled fake blood. A simple, if ingenious method of killing someone. Fisher Stevens' character Woodstock also spends some time in Savini's care for a scene in which his corpse emerges from a lake to scare lead camp counselor Michelle, who had not seen Fisher Stevens' makeup before filming, resulting in a more than genuine reaction. Having also performed stunts in previous films like George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead, Savini assisted with the opening scene in which Cropsey is first set on fire, before handling the bulk of the stunt to Reed Rondell. At just 17 years of age, Reed Rondell plays Cropsey when fully engulfed in flames, with his father, Ronnie Rondell, a seasoned stunt person, acting as supervisor. However, not everything went quite to plan. When it came time to set Reed and the cabin on fire, Tom Savini was supposed to hand a flaming torch to Ronnie, who would get the fire started. However, Tom slipped on the floor, letting go of the torch, and setting everything ablaze by accident. A quick-thinking Ronnie then pushed his son against the burning cabin to ignite him, sending him out the door where he proceeded to perform the stunt. At such an early stage in their careers, the Weinsteins' inexperience did result in them spending a lot of time on set, yet were at this point relatively hands-off during the production process. And I do use that term loosely. However, The Burning's editor Jack Scholder found Harvey Weinstein's interference during the editing process rather taxing. Weinstein had instructed the director to stay out of the editing process. Jack Scholder, however, was upset by this, since, in his own words, an editor's loyalty is always to the director. Prog rock band Yes was approached by Tony Maylam about scoring the film, yet being unable to secure a meeting with the entire group, asked keyboardist Rick Wakeman to perform the score on his own. Having worked on Maylam's previous film White Rock, Rick Wakeman was more than happy to compose the music for The Burning. The soundtrack was originally released in 1981 in the US by Varese Sarah Band, with 4 of the tracks known as the Wakeman Variations, which were alternate versions of various themes. The album also features music by Anna Pepper and the film's musical director Alan Brewer. While the score really showcases Wakeman's talent, containing a truly memorable main theme, up there with some of the best themes written for a horror film, fans of prog rock should no doubt get a kick out of the soundtrack album as well. Wakeman was originally offered a percentage of the movie's profits, yet chose to accept a fee instead, which would suggest he didn't have a great deal of faith that The Burning was going to be all that successful.
This summer, if you're planning to go camping, don't. If you're looking forward to midnight swims, don't.
Sneak on back to the campsite. Get some matches. Build us a hot fire. Don't be long.
And if you're thinking about being with someone where no one can see you, don't. Because this summer, A Legend of Terror isn't just a campfire story anymore.
The Burning initially hit cinemas in May of 1981, distributed by Filmways Pictures, who were in financial hardship at the time, hoping the current slasher craze would earn some success with The Burning. Yet, despite some positive test screenings and doing very well in Buffalo where it was filmed, The Burning failed to make much of an impression domestically, with box office sales dropping by over 50% in the first week. 1981 would prove to be the year of the slasher film, with the release of a seemingly endless number of similar movies, including Happy Birthday to Me and Friday the 13th Part 2, which had been released the previous week. However, the film ultimately did prove successful in Japan, staying in Tokyo cinemas for around 6 weeks, where the film would make the bulk of its returns. While the worldwide box office figures have been difficult to determine, it has estimated to have grossed about $2 to $3 million, and according to the director, made back its budget and then some. The film was met with some mixed reviews, with the obvious comparisons to Friday the 13th and its sequel being emphasised, with one reviewer saying, and I quote, "Might most appropriately have been titled Leatherface Goes to Summer Camp on Friday the 13th. Hey, that sounds like a really good crossover. Praise, however, was directed to Tom Savini's makeup effects and even some of the dialogue and characters, which one reviewer commended for being engaging and believable. The Burning was originally released on VHS here in Australia by Thorn EMI in its uncut theatrical version, and in the UK where it was accidentally released fully uncensored. This mistake was quickly rectified when the UK edition was pulled from stores and replaced with a new BBC-approved version. A nice way of saying cut to ribbons. The original uncut edition was deemed a video nasty during a state of moral panic that swept the UK in the 1980s, where several films were seized and banned under the Obscene Publications Act. The Burning was eventually released fully uncut on DVD in the US in 2007 by MGM, with a Blu-ray release from Shout Factory in 2013. The Shout Factory release contains several extras, including an interview with effects creator Tom Savini and behind-the-scenes footage of many of the special effects and stunt work. It also features a couple of informative commentaries with director Tony Maylam and critic Alan Jones, as well as a commentary with cast members Shelley Bruce and Bonnie Dorosky. Shout Factory also released the film on 4K in 2023 and is on many accounts an excellent improvement over the apparently problematic quality of the initial Blu-ray release. Oh great, something else I need to upgrade. I have a mortgage to pay, Shout Factory. Arrow Video in the UK has also released the film on Blu-ray with several extras as featured on the original releases, and also comes highly recommended. Brian Matthews had a fairly brief career following the burning, appearing in daytime soaps including Days of Our Lives, The Young and the Restless and Santa Barbara, and according to the IMDb, left acting in 1990 to become a licensed marriage counsellor. Leah Ayres would appear alongside Jean-Claude Van Damme in the movie Bloodsport and notably went on to play Valerie Bryson in the TV series The Edge of Night. She also took over the role of Marsha Brady in the Brady Bunch spin-off, The Bradys. Larry Joshua made several guest appearances on television, including NYPD Blue, while Ned Eisenberg would appear in the 1985 rom-com Key Exchange, before co-starring in many TV shows, including Law & Order SVU. Ned Eisenberg sadly passed away in 2022 from complications due to cholangiocarcinoma. He was 65 years old. Brian Backer won a Tony Award for his role in the Woody Allen play The Floating Light Bulb, also appearing in Fast Times at Ridgemont High and Police Academy 4, as well as TV appearances including Santa Barbara. And as for these three, Holly Hunter would of course become the established actress we know her as today, winning an Oscar for her role in The Piano while also being nominated for Broadcast News, The Firm and 13. While Holly Hunter looks back on The Burning as a good time, she has since reportedly removed the film from her resume. Hey, and with that kind of success, can you really blame her? Fisher Stevens would become recognisable, sort of, for his now controversial role as Ben in the Short Circuit movies. He would co-found the Naked Angels theatre company with several other actors, including The Burning co-star Ned Eisenberg. While Jason Alexander would of course become famous for his role as George Costanza in the hit TV series Seinfeld, nominated for 7 consecutive Primetime Emmy Awards and 4 Golden Globes. Makeup expert Tom Savini would go on to create the impressive effects for several films throughout the 1980s, including Creepshow, Friday the 13th The Final Chapter and Day of the Dead. Savini has since gone on to flex his creative muscle both on and off camera, continuing to work in makeup effects, yet also acting in films such as From Dusk Till Dawn, Planet Terror, as well as directing the 1990 remake of Night of the Living Dead. Stunt person Reed Rondell tragically passed away in a helicopter crash while filming for the TV series Airwolf. He was just 21 years of age. Editor Jack Shoulder would go on to write and direct his own horror film Alone in the Dark before achieving further success with A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. He would later direct such films as The Hidden and Wishmaster 2. Tony Malum directed a handful of films throughout his career, including Split Second with Rutger Hauer, yet impressed motor enthusiasts with his series of racing car documentary films Victory by Design. However, the legacy left by The Burning was not all positive, since the film's production also brought to light one of the first alleged instances of sexual harassment at the hands of Harvey Weinstein. An at the time 24-year-old production assistant came forward in 2017 claiming that Weinstein had exposed himself to her in his hotel room, where she had been sent to have some checks signed. He was then alleged to have asked her for a massage, to which she responded, "That's not in my job description." She alleges to have left traumatized by the incident, but claims she has now since moved past it. And speaking of Harvey Weinstein,
He's a sexual pervert.
The Burning is an enjoyable knockoff of Friday the 13th and other slasher movies that should satisfy horror fans with its gruesome effects, summer camp setting and atmospheric score. However, unlike many films of the genre where you often can't wait for the typically unlikable characters to die, The Burning's group of teens is actually quite endearing, with a dynamic that feels authentic, largely thanks to the enthusiasm of the young talent involved. While certainly no classic, the film now sits on many top slashers of all time lists. Having been heavily criticised upon release, The Burning is one of those films that took some time for audiences to warm up to. Thanks so much for watching this video, everyone. I'd love to know what you guys think of The Burning. Do you love it? Do you hate it? Does the whole Weinstein thing put you off? Either way, I'd love to hear from you guys, so leave me a comment, and if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to like, share, and consider subscribing. Depending on when you're watching this, I will be taking a short hiatus in January. Not that I'll be slacking off. I will be busy prepping some more super duper awesome retrospectives, take 10s, and other goodies for 2024. I really hope you're enjoying your holidays wherever you may be, and I wish you all the best for a safe and happy new year. Until then, be good to yourselves and each other, work, play, and party hard. I'll catch up with you soon.